So Title Update 1 adds a lot more than you think in Monster Hunter Wilds, and we have even more details that might have gone under your radar. Sure, some of this content could have just been added at the launch, but it still makes for a pretty beefy chunk of content. So without further ado, here are 15 more things you probably missed from the recent reveals. Let's get started with Mizutune because it's likely we aren't just getting one version of it, but actually two. So there's the regular one with seemingly the normal movesets, but fans were quick to point out that there may be a Soul Seer variant here as well, or at the very least a tempered Mizutune that heavily borrows some of the movesets and even looks from the Soul Seer. Specifically, this variant here shown during the nighttime has face scars relatively similar to that of Soul Seer, but with the tempered effects as they are specific to Monster Hunter Wilds. And during the Enrage phase, it almost looks like it's emitting blue flames from that roar, both around it but also from one of the eyes, which again heavily implies that's what we're dealing with. Plus, of course, we can see all the bubbles forming around with the same blue fire effect as well. You're going to find a bigger discussion on this in the links down below if you want to go ahead and check it out. But this also raises the question, are we going to also get more of these monsters in the future where deviant monsters are now tempered monsters with new abilities? Because that's something I would totally be up for. Another piece of information, or actually several, are in regards to Shia. First of all, it seems that we don't get to fight a new one, but actually the same one we defeated in low rank, and apparently it got the power to resurrect itself, as is being implied by the animations over here, with the crystals once again forming over its body. So this likely means we never get to actually defeat it for good, but rather put it in some kind of down state or hibernation up until it fully regenerates again and respawns, specifically in the inclemency phase, which seems to be implied by the blog post. So that means it takes a while for that to happen again. Yeah, indicating that Shia has some kind of way to break the cycle. We see that there's a lot of play over here on the life and death theme, or yin and yang, which is also indicated by the gear itself. More on that in just a little bit, but for now it seems that this monster is able to break that cycle, and there may be some bigger lore implications later down the line. I'm sure that lore experts will have a field day once we also get to see the story context of the mission that unlocks this. Speaking of gear, in terms of weapons, you probably got disappointed that the Greatsword reveal looks got changed from the Datamine files. Well, actually, what if I told you that's not a Greatsword, it's actually a Switch Axe? How do we know that? Well, basically from Rose KD's Datamines from a while ago, which by the way I will link down below, which pretty much shows that the Switch Axe remained largely exactly the same as it was in the Datamine files, also in the full game. So very likely that the Greatsword will continue to retain its looks with those really interesting red effects, which might be, I don't know, feathers, flames, jets, whatever they are, it's probably going to look really cool in game. And third of all, seems that the male and the female variants run an inverse play on the same light and darkness theme we talked about for Shia previously. One has the top turned dark while the other has the bottom turned dark. So looking at this, we can now mix and match these to either go with the full tendril darkness theme or going with the angelic white version with the legs and the chest. So just a shame that the layered weapons aren't dropping at the same time with this update. And finally, the last piece of information on Shia is that its hunt appears to provide Artian weapon parts, despite the fact that this variant doesn't appear to be tempered, which may imply there's no tempered version of Shia in the game, at least not yet. Which, if we follow the same premise as before about self-resurrection, kinda makes sense, given how tempered monsters are basically monsters that fought and survived very tough fights. Plus, the video Capcom posted didn't reveal how many parts we get from this hunt. However, in a later on screenshot that they posted on their official Twitter account, it shows that we get 6 Artian weapon parts and 3 weapon decos from it. Moving on to Arch-Tempered Rey Dau, a lot of you asked if there's any new abilities here, and yes, there are definitely at least a couple of them that I've noticed. So one, it seems that we get a lot of these delayed extra AoE lightning explosions triggering on both physical and railgun attacks. So both during the ground scrape phase, we can see a trail of explosions following like a split second after, and at the point of impact following a railgun blast. Plus, besides that, we've seen another one with a double railgun moveset where the boss starts from the ground, then quickly jumps into the air and quickly follows up with another one while its wings are fully stretched out. But moving on to number 7, another interesting detail is that Arch-Tempered Rey Dau can also be part of free challenge quests too, not just event quests like Capcom initially indicated. So we can see in this shot right here that he does have a specific free challenge quest that we can go ahead and jump into. So hopefully this means that he's going to be rotating back in the free challenge quests as well after his obvious event quest expires on May 20th. So if it wasn't already obvious, Arch-Tempered Rey Dau is not a permanent addition, not at first. He is going to go away, but maybe there's going to be other events that brings him back later down the line. Now besides this, we also have some extra details on the minigames at the Grand Hub. So for the barrel bowling, there are 3 types of pins that we can destroy, with the bigger ones giving significantly more points. So in the case of the smaller ones, 11 small pins give 22 points in total, so that means 2 each. The middle ones give 140 points for 7 hits, which means they are valued at 20 points each. So this means the biggest pin either gives 50 points or straight out 200 points if it's going 10x, like how it was the case from the small to the middle ones. And it definitely seems that it's unique and high points value because it plays a very unique animation when you happen to hit it. Moving on, also for the Grand Hub, the Diva Singer seems to only spawn at night. We can see that during the day the stage is empty, but then as the night settles in, bonfires emerge and the singer also appears. Plus all shots we have of her obviously appear to be at night. But the blog post mentions that this only happens occasionally, so don't expect the Diva concert to happen every single night. Moving on to number 10, it seems that the canteen over at the Grand Hub provides at least more extra meals that we currently have in the game, but it's also awfully similar to many of the meals we get for the invitation events that pop up randomly. So this is not 100% confirmation, but it is possible that Capcom reworked them a little bit for more easy access now that we have the Grand Hub. And given how they provide some of the best buffs in the game, I would definitely love to see that. Moving on to number 11, during the DLC pack showcase, there was this little really cool summoning animation being shown here with a frog being summoned. And I'm not gonna lie, my immediate thought was initially Naruto obviously, but it's probably just Japanese mythology and symbolism being shown rather than a Naruto Easter egg. Though this did make me think of that April collab with another Capcom title, which Naruto could be, but yeah, a lot of you pointed out that it's probably going to be something Devil May Cry related, given how the show launches on Netflix in April. So I think that DMC is probably the best bet you can make right now in terms of collabs. Moving on to number 12, during the event quest continue section later in the video, the narrator mentions that we will get to earn special armor, collect cooking ingredients, and quickly raise our hunter levels. Right now we've only seen 2 types of event quest categories, either the ones for special armors or the ones for materials / cooking ingredients, neither particularly quake at farming XP. And that is because we actually get a new type starting as early as the 1st of April with the Anguish and Atrocity. This is pretty much the first event of this type we get in Monster Hunter Wilds, which means if we get it on April 1st, you can just farm some high rank over there and get to at least Hunter rank 50 so that you can get ready for Shia and some of the other bosses if you haven't at this point. But obviously there's a lot more that was teased in the video as well, and fans were quick to spot some quick references in the summer update relating to previous Monster Hunter titles, so shout out once again to Rose over on Reddit. You're going to find again the links down below, besides Lagiacrus being featured as one of the main monsters planned for the summer content update. There's another major reference over here which will go over your head if you didn't play Monster Hunter Tri. I didn't play it, so obviously it just went over my head, but the creature being grabbed over here appears to be a Delphidon, and the area seems to be affected by fire, probably from a Rathalos since it does spawn in the Scarlet Forest. So it's probably a nod to the intro scene in Monster Hunter Tri, as many of you likely started playing the game during that moment. This may also indicate turf wars between Lagiacrus and Rathalos in the Scarlet Forest in this case, which seems very interesting. In fact, it seems that we're gonna have probably the most amount of turf wars specifically in the Scarlet Forest because of this, and also another one that we've seen being teased in the existing video between Mizutsune and Uthduna. Speaking of which, there's also a turf war between the two over in the Scarlet Forest. which implies this Mizu variant is actually really strong. So how strong is the tempered variant going to be? It definitely seems to get highly overcrowded over there in the forest. And finally, the only other thing I wanted to mention is that even though we are getting all of these monsters, we get at least 2 new side missions to complete. One of them is the mission that unlocks Shia in high rank, so I am wondering if that's going to provide some extra story context. And another one includes unlocking Alma's outfit and specifically the glasses over there. So I do wonder if there's going to be any more in that as well. It could possibly connect the dots between why there's a resurrection of Shia back in the ruins of Wyveria. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the details. If there's anything that I missed on top of this, please let me know down below in the comments. It definitely seems that there are many references that were packed over there. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.